Okay, so for the very first thing that I'm going to show you guys how to do for my workflow is just the very boring culling process. Well, it can be boring. I actually find it very exciting because I like to see, it's very hard on the LCD of the camera to really see whether or not you've nailed exactly how you want your photograph to look. So one of my favorite parts of culling and going through your pictures and determining which you're going to keep, which is my very first step in my workflow, is seeing if I did nail those pictures. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. I like to say that I do more than I don't, but we're all human. So the very first thing that I do is that I pull it all in. I use a CF card reader. It's actually a CF and SD card reader since I shoot with cameras that take both. And everyone's going to have a different way of how they bring in their pictures. But all in all, at the end of the day, what you can do is have everything put into one folder. I don't want to jumble up my folders into multiple different, or my clients into multiple different folders. So like for instance, I have my main folder here, which I have on my desktop, which is Sessions 2011. Then I have it broken down by name. These aren't as coordinated as they need to be. A lot of them were done with moving and I need to go back through and rename them, but I typically have the name. Like in the middle, I have Stamps Wedding. Well, I know that that was the Stamps and that was a wedding. It's easier for me to have a little reference. These are not going on the picture files, name tags. I keep those as the DSC or whatever the picture pulls in them as. I don't rename those until I'm getting ready to save them. And then typically I'll save them like Stamps 1, Stamps 2, Stamps 3. It's easier for me to be able to go back through, load into slideshows that way. So anyways, if you see my thing here, I have my main folder of Sessions 2011. Then I have each one broken down by person. I do have a couple where you can see, it's probably kind of hard to see on the screen, but I have Berghofer Boudoir right here. Then I have her final. This is my burn folder. This is a Mac. It's going to look a little different if you're working on a PC, but I do always like to try to have keep my burn folder until I'm 100% sure that she's not going to order any more of her prints. I'm still waiting on her to see because her wedding is coming up. But the rest of them, I pretty much have completed all my orders. I do have an album for proofs. The album proofs, I don't want to ditch them. I've already delivered the album, but for me, for some reason, I just don't want to get rid of the proofs. When I'm done at the end of the month, I do move all my proofs and my albums into one folder. That way, whenever I need to go back to find a proof, I can all go there. But I'm always going to keep all of my sessions separated by name or date. Name's easier. I typically can remember, oh, so that vintage session, well, I know that was with Lauren Laymuth. So I know that I can go and I can click on her and go to her thing quickly without having to go, what month was that, so on and so forth. Okay, so moving on. Now, the one thing that I love absolutely about having a Mac, and I know that you can do this on Windows, I'm not 100% sure how you can do it, but this is how I do. So I'm going to go into Anna's engagements, and you can see that I kept all my raw files as well. They just had their wedding, so I wanted to make sure they didn't have any more prints they wanted to get. I have all of my finalized ones at the bottom. In order for me, you will notice that when you first come in, you're going to have tiny little thumbnails like this. This is also probably what the default's going to be on Windows. I like to make mine very large, so I don't have to open them. You could utilize Photoshop Bridge, or Adobe Bridge, and you can go through your pictures. You can click a check mark for keep, X for delete. This is just the way that I do it. It's just easier. I make them the biggest that the thumbnails will go, and then I like to have them two across. I shoot RAW plus JPEG. So if you look right here, the very first two at the top, I've got my JPEG on the left, my RAW on the right. I can just scroll through, and I can very easily look at the pictures and see what I think. Okay, so for instance, like this picture right here. Are her eyes open? Are they not? Can't really tell. There's a couple things that I don't like about the picture, but let's check out her eyes. If I was going to open the RAW folder or the RAW file, it's going to take a little bit longer. ACR takes a while to open up, and this is as large as I can go on my thumbnails, so it's good to have the JPEG. Personal preference, some people don't shoot JPEG at all. I can double click JPEG, my computer's automatically going to open it up so that I can view it. Her eyes are a little too squinty for me in this picture. Not only that, I don't like how the background, it was two wooden slats put together for that wall at a store, and I don't like the big gap that it's showing right there. So just close that out, and what I can do is I can select those and send them to trash, and then I'm done. So let me scroll down. I've got a couple of the same pose. I like these better of them. Now you see this one, I'm going to go ahead and open it up as raw. I'm pretty happy with it. I've got a little bit of clipping here, and we're getting ready to go into how that editing is. But now that I opened up the raw, because I pretty much knew that was the file that I wanted, I can start adjusting my sliders. I'm going to end this video here so that it's not too long, but that's essentially my process for culling. First, I pull it into the computer, however options, whatever program you use. Then I sort them so that they're all together. I may have multiple sessions on a memory card, but I want to keep like all of Anna's engagements together, all of Sarah's maternity together, and all of little Bobby Joe's 1-year-old pictures together. I don't want them to be jumbled. So for me, this is just my personal preference, I put those in there. I put the thumbnails the largest that I can go so I can quickly reference to look at them. Then I utilize the JPEGs for quick view. Again, you can do this in Bridge. It's a lot quicker. I don't care for Bridge, mostly because it's really foreign to me and I haven't spent that much time on how to use it. So from here, I can trash the ones I absolutely know I'm not going to use, keep the ones I'm going to, and process as I go. I methodically go through the timeline of the session as I edit. This may not always be the case. If I know I have a save the date picture that they absolutely wanted, say they had a chalkboard and it said save the day X date. Well, that was at the end of the session, and I know that's one of the pictures that they want done first. I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Typically, that's not the case. I go in order. I try to do all the pictures in the same location, aligning at the same time, because they're all going to be wanting to be processed about the same time, because what if they're put into a storyboard together? You want them as like as possible. But we're going to get into that. So this is really preliminarily my culling process, and we will move on to the next thing.